welcome back to my channel. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 90 Day The Single Life Season 2 tell-all that was on Discovery Plus today. This season of 90 Day The Single Life, I wasn't really a big fan of it, but I still watched it. I tried recapping it at first. Like, the only kind of storyline I was really into was Debbie. So let's go ahead and get into what happened on part 1 of the 90 Day The Single Life tell-all. So Colt and Vanessa showed up because Debbie was there, and Colt and Vanessa revealed a lot of tea. Vanessa got pregnant. She had a miscarriage. I talked about this like 3 months ago in a video because they announced it on social media. But they ended up splitting up because things got so bad in the house with their relationship. They were constantly fighting because Vanessa felt like Debbie was overstepping her boundaries and she's too dependent on Colt. So we'll get more into that in a minute. But Colt said that he's super frustrated with Debbie because he feels like she's not really putting herself out there. He said in a span of a year when she was filming for The Single Life, she only went on 3 dates. And Colt said it seems like she's really not putting in effort to get into a relationship, and if she really wanted to, then she would go on more dates. And Colt said that he feels like he's always the first call Debbie goes to when she needs someone, and he said it's kind of frustrating because he feels like his mom depends on him way too much, and he had to drive his mom all the way to California, 7 hours there, 7 hours back, and stay there for the night so she can go on her date while Vanessa was back at home and pregnant with her baby. And Debbie had no idea at this time that Vanessa was pregnant. So Debbie got so upset she walked off the stage, and Sean asked Vanessa her take on the whole situation. She said that Debbie living with Colt and Vanessa was affecting her so much she had to move out, and her and Colt are no longer living together because she said it was non-stop with Debbie needing Colt for everything. Vanessa feels like all this stress could have contributed to her miscarriage because she ended up miscarrying the baby when she was pregnant at 4 months. And the host asked Vanessa how she was handling it, and she said there's nothing she could do about it, and she broke down in tears. And Colt said he took her to the emergency room overnight. She learned she had lost the baby. So for them, you know, the hardest thing you can go through in your life is losing a child, so I really feel bad for them. So Debbie told producers that Colt can't even afford to live by himself because she said Colt and Vanessa, neither one of them were working, and Debbie's been the one paying all the bills, so she doesn't even have any idea how Colt and Vanessa would make it on their own anyways. And Vanessa said that since she's moved out, she would move back in if Debbie moved out. But Vanessa said she can't talk to Debbie calmly and have a conversation with her. She said anytime her and Colt try to bring up an issue, she said that Debbie automatically starts screaming over them, gets defensive, and refuses to hear the issue and storms into the room and slams the door. So Vanessa said that Debbie guilt trips Colt into feeling bad for her and emotionally manipulates him so she can get her way. So Debbie said that Vanessa is putting stuff in Colt's head and brainwashing him, and she was super mad because she's like, look, I always showed up to your guys' tell-all when you guys were on the show. I had your guys' back and was supportive. We talked before I came here, and you guys promised me you were going to have my back, and you guys turned on me. But I think they're just trying to get to the bottom of the situation because it's literally tearing Vanessa and Colt's marriage apart. So next we had Big Ed and Liz. So they said they reconnected after she found out Ed's dog passed away, so she brought him flowers and sent them to him. They ended up having dinner and went to bed and woke up, and he proposed to her and gave her an engagement ring. And Sean, the host, asked Big Ed what was different about this time since they broke up 8 times before. And Liz said that Big Ed had his friends on his ears, and she claimed that Big Ed makes decisions for himself now. He's a big boy. And Debbie called BS. That's why I love Mama Debbie. So Big Ed tried to blame one of his friends for texting Liz and breaking up with her the last time before the last tell-all of last season. And he tried to put all the responsibility on his friend and said it was his friend's idea, and his friend typed the breakup text and sent it to Liz. I think that's a total lie unless it's one of Big Ed's sugar babies. But Big Ed said he wouldn't put the person's name on blast, but he said it was one of his guy friends. And everyone was laughing at Liz, and Debbie told Liz she needs to wake up and smell the coffee happy because Ed is obviously desperate and just using Liz. And Stephanie says she knows Big Ed knew he effed up, so he got her the biggest gift he could, and that was an engagement, and that's how he got her back. So Debbie told Liz she's too smart for this, she needs to wake up. And Stephanie said that she feels like Big Ed and Liz are both just codependent on each other. They're desperate. They don't want to be alone. And then I gotta applaud Stephanie for this one. There's not many things I'm like, oh, you go, girl, when she says it. But she called out Liz and said, look, didn't you literally try to cancel Big Ed on the internet? And I'm glad she brought that up because I was really hoping someone would mention it, that in this tell-all. So she straight started a petition with over 100,000 signatures to get Big Ed canceled from TLC, and Ed blamed it on Liz being upset. And Stephanie said, if I was upset, I wouldn't be blasting phone calls all over the internet so people can go attack my ex and then turn around and get back with him. And all Liz had to say was, nobody's perfect. And I was like, everybody was just trying to hold back their laughter. So Liz said that Ed's mom is no longer living at the house with him, and now they have privacy. Big Ed said he lived with his mom for over 31 years, but once him and Liz got engaged, he had her move out. Big Ed said his mom is not happy whatsoever with his relationship with Liz because she feels like Ed is choosing Liz over her. And the producers invited Ed's daughter and Ed's mom to the tell-all, but neither of them were willing to participate because they don't agree with the relationship with Liz. And if that's not a red flag, then I don't know what is. So Liz said she doesn't like the way that Ed's mom is talking to Ed. Ed's mom and daughter are both strongly encouraging him to get a prenup, and Liz claims she has no problem signing a prenup, but Ed says he doesn't believe in prenups. He believes they're a contract for divorce. So since none of Ed's family would come on, they had Ed's friend Rich, and the host asked Rich his thoughts on Ed and Liz's relationship, and he says he thinks they're perfect for each other. So Ed was like, oh, thank you, taking it as a compliment. But then he went on and described more what he meant by perfect for each other. He said they're both insecure and selfish, and they're a perfect match. And Big Ed said he only wants to be around people who are supportive of him, so he just wants to be surrounded by a bunch of yes men who aren't going to challenge him. So then Liz revealed that Rich was actually the author of all their breakup texts, and Rich said that no one knew the story from beginning to end, but Ed asked him for help and said he didn't know how to put his words together and he was bad at grammar, so Rich helped recommend him on what exactly to say. And Liz said that if she wanted to marry Big Ed, she could have already, but she says she wants to take her time on the wedding and all that. So then it was Sinjin's turn, and Tanya showed up, and she said part of her didn't even want to show up, and she was in tears, and you can tell she's still very much heartbroken over her split with Sinjin. So this is their first time they were seeing each other first face to face since Sinjin moved out and left her. So Tanya says she's been doing a few bartending jobs and selling feet pics online. Well, she says she hasn't sold feet pics yet, but she's strongly considering it after she found out that Stephanie says she has become a millionaire as of last year from selling pics and selling her flatulence in jars. And then they revealed in a first look at the second part of the tell-all that Tanya has been giving Sinjin money since their divorce, and the last time he called her, he said that he needed money for his rent that was due in a few days, and Tanya sent it to him and found out the next day that he flew to California to see another girl. So he did not use that money on his rent. He used it so he could go see another girl. So he refused to say who that girl was he was visiting, but he said it's not his fault that Tanya was spying on where he was at. And I'm like, man, it's her money, it's her business. You just need to shut up, Sinjin. And then they had Jennifer and Jesse. They've been together over 7 months, and they are currently in Cancun, Mexico, and they have plans to move to Spain together. They said they've been traveling the world together, and they're not engaged yet, but that's on the list. And Kako was there via video, and he said he would be there for Jennifer when him and Jesse broke up. And she kept saying Kakwa will always be in her life regardless because he's a lifelong friend. And everyone on the stage kept pointing out how toxic that was. And everyone at the tell-all disagreed with Jennifer to continue having Kakwa in his life when he was obviously causing all kinds of drama with her and Jesse, and pretty much just saying that Kakwa was cancer. So Jennifer swears up and down she never slept with Kakwa, but everyone was calling BS on that. And then they brought Tim and Veronica, and Jesse and Jennifer just rubbed their relationship in all of Tim's face. They kept making out and hanging all over each other. It's like, man, nobody wants to see that. Go get an OF if you want to do that. So Tim said he feels like everything about Jesse is unauthentic, and Jennifer said nothing about Tim's eyebrows are authentic, and Tim said somebody needed to put a muzzle on Jennifer. And Tim said that if Jesse wants to be with Jennifer long term, he better have a big wallet, because he said Jennifer is all about the money. And Jennifer was like, no, I'm not. And Veronica called out Jennifer and said, yeah, you are. You dumped him because he refused to pay for a third visa after he already dropped all sorts of money on everything else for you and 2 other visas. And she was super ungrateful about the whole situation. And then last but not least, we have Stephanie. So I'm just going to go over her part real fast because I don't know, her scenes kind of seem boring to me this season. It's just all about celibacy. So Stephanie said that she has decided that she prefers men over women, and Stephanie says she feels like she just works better with a man in a relationship because women's emotional needs are so high, and Stephanie says she has her own emotional needs, and she says she realizes she prefers masculine energy who will be there for her and be less emotional than her. So Stephanie said things didn't work out with the hairdresser because she ghosted Stephanie, and Stephanie said she believes the reason why she did that is because things got awkward, and Stephanie said she felt like her hairdresser wasn't necessarily full-on bi, she was just like bi-curious, and then later realized she wasn't about that life. So Stephanie said she has had to find a new hairdresser, and she said she is no longer celibate. She said she met someone online, they talked for several months, and Stephanie flew to Paris and they hooked up, and Stephanie says she feels like this person is her soulmate. She said she went into full-on details about all her weird kinks her and her dude were trying out. Like, she says she likes it when he spits in her mouth. And then, I don't know, it's just like she kept getting so sexual, and I'm like, okay, are you promoting your OnlyFans? Are we doing a tell-all here? So that's it for this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts about the first part of the tell-all. I'm looking forward to the next part because we're going to see Natalie and Mike tell Natalie that he wants a divorce, and Natalie is currently back in Ukraine. And I have no idea if it's permanently or not, but she just posted on IG a few days ago that she's back in Ukraine. So that's it for this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.